Hello and welcome to another edition of You Can Get There From Here. I'm Dr. Joe Moore, Chair of the Department of Communication and Digital Media Production at the University of Central Missouri, and it's my pleasure every week to get to sit down and visit with some of our alumni. I talk to those who graduated with a degree in digital media production, others who earned a bachelor's degree in communication studies, and some who received their MA in communication. Today, we are with Rachel Gibbs Richards. Rachel, glad to see you today. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So you got a degree in communication studies. You are now Services for Students with Disabilities Assistant Director at the University of Michigan. That is a mouthful. Before we get into
Yes.
all of that, though, let's talk about where you're from, what brought you to UCM, and then why'd you pick communication studies?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I went to high school in the state of Michigan. So was here for high school, graduated and knew that I wanted to get out of the state for a new experience. I think that's pretty common in young adults trying to spread their wings and learn something new. I had started off at a different school. It was not a good fit, but found UCM through some friends and colleagues, where I had just kind of got to know them and I was like, oh, well, they're going there. I might as well give it a shot as well. UCM is close to Worlds of Fun and I had a history in the amusement park industry. So that was also a pull, kind of being close to somewhere where I could do some work on the weekends while I was in school.
Excellent. I've never had anybody say the Worlds of Fun is what drew them this way, but makes sense. It's a great park. Talk
Yeah.
about then, you said that you could work there on the weekends. Talk about your experience here at UCM. What classes really stood out for you, and what were you involved in?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I did a lot of mixing and matching of my communication studies classes. Did a main focus in relational communication, but knew that pulling in classes from business communication and some of those areas was also going to be beneficial. So one of the benefits of the comm studies degree was kind of being able to take classes in areas of interest. So being able to pull some electives or additional classes that were outside of like the relational communication path and being able to expand those horizons and build skills that you may not always get the experience to try and kind of dabble in a little bit of everything.
Excellent. Well, I looked at your LinkedIn profile before we got on here, and it said, and I noticed you really have a servant's heart because I'm looking here. You went to graduate school after UCM at Western Michigan. You worked in the rehabilitation counseling while you were there. That was a graduate assistantship. You did an internship with the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. You were accommodation specialist at Western Michigan, and now you're working with students with disabilities at the University of Michigan. Was that the plan all along to work with this community of individuals, or is it just something you kind of developed into?
Yeah, it wasn't the plan. The plan originally was to go into management somewhere, which is why like the relational communication and some of that business communication was also going to be super helpful. But during my time at UCM, I worked in the Office of Student Accessibility and worked there, which is really where I got my feet wet. And then after graduating with my degree, I kind of took a gap year, did a year as an AmeriCorps Vista working with the homeless population in Southeast Ohio.
There's that servant's
And
heart again.
yeah, exactly. And that job really fell into my lap in one of Dr. Benton's classes. We were like, what is your future plan? What are you guys kind of hoping to do? We did some like searching through different things and I found that posting in that class. And I was like, it's worth a shot. I applied for it and then I got it. And then during that year, I really thought about where I wanted to go next and what I wanted to do. I knew like management was not really kind of panning out the way that I anticipated it would. I was really missing the university environment and working with students. So went back and got my master's degree in counseling education with a focus in rehabilitation counseling, which my communications degree really supported and assisted with that process. I felt like I really had the groundwork and the basis for how to communicate interpersonally, small group, larger group, and really knowing how to connect and like get to know people, build rapport on a more personal level based on my experience in the communication studies program.
You know, I always tell students that you can do anything with a communication studies degree, and I'll respond when we get a student admitted. I always send them an email and I talk about we do anything from working in the government to education, we do counseling to management, and you're prime example. You studied communication, you thought you'd get into management, you're doing something not totally different because it sounds like you're still working with people and in a leadership role, but you're not managing a business. You're helping people with some challenges that most of us don't have to deal with, and so that really demonstrates that versatility. What does a day look like for you?
Yeah, day to day, my main role is working with students, faculty, staff on campus, providing and discussing access. So, a lot of one on one, small group meetings, kind of talking about the barriers or challenges that students with disabilities experience on campus, and then brainstorming and suggesting changes that could make their experience more equitable. So, one-on-one meetings with students to talk about their past experience and what challenges they may experience at the university, and then kind of what, like on the other side, what can faculty and staff do to make their programs more accessible.
And I think that's something that's really unique to colleges and universities. You're working with freshmen in high school, kids who have never stepped foot on a college campus, maybe their first generation. Then you're working with faculty and staff who that's been their livelihood. And then I'm sure you have to deal with some with administration. Your audiences are really, and then not to mention moms and dads, all those folks. How do you manage the different audiences you have to work with?
Yeah, I think I really tap into kind of really understanding who my audience is and kind of recognizing their role on campus and then kind of tailoring how I'm communicating with each of them, really ensuring that they're all feeling heard, really feeling listened to, some of those relational communication pieces coming in there, right? Not just listening, but making sure that the other person feels like they're being heard. And then also like tailoring the way that I communicate with them to better fit their needs, right? So when I'm communicating with an instructor or a faculty member, it's typically more professional, more academic, as some would say. Whereas where I'm working with parents or students just coming into the university and maybe a little bit more casual, really just kind of a more learning experience, navigating like systems and kind of what to expect coming into a university rather than like a high school setting.
And we talk all the time about the first thing in communication you have to think of is your audience. What classes or what activities that you were involved in when you were in college stand out that really helped cement that thought with you?
Yeah, I think taking some of the rhetoric classes with Eric Newsom and talking about like kind of the way that your message is received and kind of crafting a message that will be received in the way that it's intended, thinking about some of those more like relational communication. I often think about my mindfulness class with Dr. Benton, kind of like where are these kind of thoughts and feelings coming from, and really being able to stay within those conversations, especially when we're on a busy campus in a busy time of year, kind of engaging with with those individuals, but also being aware that like the way that I intended my message to come off doesn't always necessarily land the same way, and kind of being able to recognize like my own emotions in those situations to be able to facilitate better conversation.
Well, the university's motto is education for service, and you clearly have taken that to heart. What's next for you?
Continuing to climb up the ladder of academic leadership. I hope to be in a director position in the next 5, 10 years, leading an office and really supporting students in a way where I can better engage with administration and really work within the system to make things more equitable.
You ever think about coming back to UCM?
Kathy Seeley, the current director, did send me a message the other day letting me know that she is planning to retire in the next couple of years.
Okay.
The ties are still there and the messages still come every once in a while to see how things are going. So not out of the question.
Well, we would love to see it back in the Cardinal and black if that's the way the die is cast. So we'll
Yeah.
keep that in mind. So as we talk about I talked about our motto. Our new slogan is redefining what's possible. What does that mean to Rachel Richards?
Yeah, I think redefining what's possible is really at the root of the work that I do, right? Like breaking the status quo, really not falling into the pattern of this is the way that it's always been done, but really thinking outside of the box and utilizing the tools and resources that you have and you learn along the way to better the work that you're doing, but also redefining what is possible and what can be done in the future. Like you don't have to stick with the same path, but you can forge a new path and utilize the skills and resources that you have to assist in that.
That sounds awesome. Well, before I let you go, I have two final questions for you. Really, one question, two parts. What advice would you have for a current UCM student studying communication? And what advice would you have for a high school student or community college student who's thinking about coming to UCM to study communication? We talked about this
Yeah.
beforehand. You're at Michigan. We don't really serve the same clientele, so you can talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So why like my advice to current students is to branch out really if there's something that piques your interest and like is a skill or like a class that sounds interesting, take as an elective, right? There's so much opportunity with a communication degree, as we've been talking about, to kind of forge your own path and kind of navigate things a little bit differently than, let's say, a mechanical engineering student who is very set on a specific path. So take those classes that are interesting, learn about like different topic areas, things that you want to do in the future. You don't necessarily have to stay within exactly your path within communication. Take the digital media class, take the business communication class, take the relational class. Branch out, see what's possible, and really get skills and resources for your future in ways that are exciting and not necessarily just the status quo.
For sure. For
And
sure.
why UCM? It's a community that is unlike any other. The classes are like the perfect size. You really get to know your faculty. You feel like there are people that you can reach out to at any point in time. There have been times, even after breaks in like taking classes, I was able to reach out to Dr. Geiger and Dr. Benton to ask for support in moving forward. And so it's really a community that's very unique to UCM and not something that you're going to get everywhere where you are invited to dinner or they really care about your success and want to see you do well, and they're there to support you in doing that. And the classes are really developed to support each individual student.
Well, Rachel, we're glad that you were a part of it. We're glad that you got to know the folks around here, and we're a little bit of a part in helping you get where you are today. We have a lot of students who are doing some great things. I really am proud of all of them. I'm especially proud of those of you who are taking that education for service and you're out there in your communities. You're trying to make the world a better place. You're helping those with challenges that I'll never even know about. You're doing great work. We're proud of you. Keep it up.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure connecting with you and getting to chat again today, and we look forward to seeing where the program goes in the future.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thanks for being with us. And thanks all of you for tuning in today. Remember, you can catch every episode on our YouTube channel through the UCM Media Network. That's youtube.com/UCMMN. You can also listen on Spotify. Special thanks to Jake Mager for creating our theme music for us. Again, this is Dr. Joe Moore reminding you, you can get there from here. Have a great day.